Hey, what's up guys? I'm Cole and this is Practical Faith. If you are a Christian who's messed up, God is not through with you. And in fact, your greatest victories may still be ahead. Stay tuned. Alright, so we all know that Christians make mistakes. We're not immune to making mistakes, at least this side of heaven. But how we handle those mistakes will determine the person that we become. I want to recount a Bible story that ends in a pretty awesome way, but it's going to take a minute or two to set up, so please bear with me. But it's from Joshua chapters 9 and 10. So Joshua is leading the people of Israel out of the wilderness into the promised land, and they've already taken out Jericho, they've conquered Ai, and news is starting to spread to all of the people in Canaan that they are on the list. So God has given Joshua a directive to not make leagues with these nations, but to drive them out. So the people of Gibeon don't want to be destroyed. They're like,
we're next on the list.
And so they send a delegation to Joshua trying to make peace, but they know that Joshua is not going to accept a treaty with them if he knows that they're just a 2-day journey away. So they do something pretty deceptive. They make themselves to look like they've been traveling for a long time. They have like moldy bread and worn out clothes. And they come to Joshua and he asks them where they're from and they're like,
from a far country.
And so Joshua doesn't even pray about it, but he makes a treaty with these people, which is a pretty big deal. Right? Because not only does it mean that he's not going to wipe them out, but he's actually making a league with them. So if they're ever in any trouble, he's got to come help them out. So a few days after making this treaty, Joshua comes upon Gibeon and he realizes what's been done. He recognizes his mistake, but he can't just attack these people and drive them out now. And it gets even worse than that. Because there's 5 kings of the Amorites that hear what Gibeon did, they don't like it, and so they attack Gibeon. And then the Gibeonites say,
hey Joshua, we made a treaty with you. You have to come help us.
And Joshua does. He has to come help them because he's given them his word. They're in a league together. And now he finds himself in a battle that he never should have been in the first place. That may sound familiar to you. How many times have we as Christians messed up? We've made some huge mistake and then we find ourselves in a battle that we never should have to be in. If we had just listened, if we had just obeyed, if we just done things the right way, we would never be dealing with the things that we're dealing with. But the fact is, you are. So what are you going to do now? I'm assuming that if you've made a mistake, you recognize it, you've owned up to it. If you haven't, take responsibility for your actions. Stop pointing fingers and blaming everybody else for what you did wrong. You're never going to go very far in your Christian walk if you're always pushing things off on somebody else. So if you've messed up, you have to decide what you're going to do next. What's the next step? At that point, some people say, well, I just can't do it. There's no way. I just can't seem to live for God. They doubt their ability to follow God. The Bible says that the righteous man falls 7 times, but he rises again. So if you've fallen and fallen and fallen, if you've made mistake after mistake, get back up. Keep trying. The only way that you're going to be defeated is if you stop trying. Some people, after they've made mistakes, they doubt God's ability to even use them anymore. They say, God would never want to use me. I've messed up too bad. But God doesn't just throw you away since you've made a mistake. You're not useless. You still have meaning to your life. There's still purpose for you. And in fact, sometimes God takes those big mistakes and he uses them to bring even more glory to himself. So Joshua admitted his mistake. He got up. He didn't doubt the Lord. He didn't doubt that God was for him. And he consulted with God this time. And God told him not to fear the 5 kings of the Amorites because God had given them into his hand. So Joshua is in the midst of this battle. God is fighting with him. He's conquering his enemies. And I love this part. Joshua looks towards the sun and he says,
sun, stand still in the sky over Gibeon, and moon in the valley of Ajalon.
And the Bible says that the sun stood still and the moon stood still for about the space of a whole day. There are some people that say,
well, the Bible here is wrong because the sun actually didn't stand still. It was the earth that stood still.
Do you use the word sunrise? Do you use the word sunset? I mean, this was spoken from the perspective of men. Some people think that God could not have stopped the rotation of the earth on its axis because then the atmosphere would continue to rotate at like 1,000 miles an hour and blow everyone into outer space. But I happen to believe that God created the world out of nothing. He just spoke and it was. And the God that can do that can suspend the laws of physics that he created for the space of a day. That's not really a problem for him. So if we just take the Bible for what it says, this to me is one of the greatest miracles of all time. Every single person on the face of the planet was impacted by the words that Joshua spoke. Like, I've woken up sometimes at 2 or 3 in the morning and been like, how is it not morning already? And sometimes I've had days and I just felt like they would not end. But this is really taking that to another level. There were people on the other side of the world that had to have been like, what's going on? I mean, the scope of this miracle is so huge. But this miracle never would have happened if Joshua hadn't have made that huge mistake. Isn't that just like God? To take someone's biggest mistake and use that to bring them their biggest victory. So this can definitely apply to the small mistakes in our life. But sometimes people make massive mistakes and they look back and they're like, everything is rubble. Everything is just a mess. I've messed everything up and it's all ashes. But the Bible says that God can give you beauty for ashes. You may not understand now how he can bring glory out of your shame, but God can. So just bring him your mess, lay everything at his feet, and he'll work with it. And all you really have to do is be willing to make that trade. So I don't think that I really have to tell anyone that I'm not advocating sin. I'm not saying go make a big mistake and then God's gonna bring glory out of it. But I'm saying that if you have, God can use that for his own glory. I really hope that this video has been helpful for you guys. If it has, and if you think it might could help somebody else, please share it in whatever way you share things. Also, please consider subscribing and hit the thumbs up button because it lets me know that you're enjoying the content. Until next time, thanks for watching.